Hello everyone. So today we are going to be implementing the PKI Root CA infrastructure, and PKI actually stands for the public key infrastructure. So the problem this actually solves is it solves the problem of trust and the problem of a secure communication over an insecure network, for instance. So if you look at the top left of our screen here, you see that the site that we are currently accessing is actually displaying a warning sign that says your connection to this site isn't secure. So, for instance, if a user is about to access this website, they might not have the trust to get to this site, or they might be vulnerable to some cyber attacks. So, the implementation that we are going to be implementing here today is going to be to fix that particular problem. So, if we look here on our screen, we can see that we have a root certificate authority here, and we equally have a subordinate certificate authority or intermediate certificate authority, and we equally have our Active Directory domain controller server here and our web server here. So what's actually happening here is, let's say for instance, if we have our web server here, for our web server to actually be displayed on the user's device, or let's say this user's PC here, when he opens his browser, for it to be displayed as, let's say, a secure network to give that trust, what has to happen is that um, the root certificate authority has to validate that this website is actually a secure website based on the request that is going to make to this server. Yeah, and if we look here, we clearly see that we have our intermediate certificate authority. Normally, the root certificate authority is the one that is supposed to be issuing certificates. But what's going to happen here for security purposes is this root certificate authority is going to give authority to this intermediate certificate authority to be the one that's going to be issuing certificates on his behalf. That means it's the one that's going to be verifying that is going to be ensuring that a particular request from, let's say, a web server, a site that's hosted locally, for instance, is valid on behalf of the root certificate authority. So in case, let's say, the intermediate certificate authority goes down, then the root certificate can always, let's say, give authority to another server to act like the intermediate certificate authority. So with that being said, we are just going to go straight into the configurations, and then we get this particular implementation done. And also, before we get into the implementation, if you look closely, you realize that we have four Windows servers on the screen here. And these four Windows servers are actually a clone of each other. So the moment we get in, we are going to run some two lines of commands to ensure that we make this particular TV servers to be unique. So I'll just double click on them, and then we try to make that happen as we walk along. Just double click on the next one. I'll just input the password that we have there. Enter. We'll go to the next one, and we are just going to do the same. Right, so as a subordinate certificate authority is up, what is going to happen is I'll just hit the command prompt, and when we hit the command prompt, you can definitely you can definitely input this command. So you need to type cd, and then you just try to move to a C drive. You type Windows, put the backslash, and then you put in system32, put the backslash, and put the sysprep. You hit enter. The next line that we are going to be inputting is sysprep.exe slash oobe slash generalize slash, we're going to put a reboot so that you reboot once it's done. Hit enter. So it's going to just make this particular system ID of this particular server to be unique. It should not be part of the clone. So I'll log into this device as well, and we're going to do same as such. So I'll do the same thing, open the command prompt at the bottom of the screen here, and we just do the same thing, we type cd, put the backslash, type Windows system32 sysprep, hit enter, and we're going to type in sysprep.exe /oobe space /generalize /reboot, and we'll go to the web server device, and we'll enter a command prompt again, and I'll just do the same thing to make the device unique. So take cd, enter the C drive, put a backslash Windows system32 /sysprep, hit enter, and sysprep.exe /oobe /generalize and the /reboot. So it's going to reboot our system. Okay. So our Active Directory domain controller is going to be booting up, and our subordinate certificate authority will be booting up as well. So while they are booting, we can just be configuring our routers here to set the interfaces the way they are. So I'll just double click into router 1, and then we'll just add the IP addresses and set the routes that are supposed to be there. So I'll first of all enter the first interface gi0/0, go to the configuration mode, interface gi0/0, pick IP address, put the IP address of gi0/0, that's 10.0.0.1.0.0.1, and put the subnet mask 255.255.255.0, hit enter. I'll take no shutdown. We want to bring the interface up. The next thing is we are going to enter the next interface, that's in gi0/1. And once we are in there, we are going to add the IP, that's 10.10.10.1. So take IP add, that's 10.10.10.1, 255.255.255.0, hit enter, no shutdown. We enter the next interface, gi0/0/2, from the topology here, 0/2.172, IP add 172.16.1.1, 255.255.255.0, and hit enter, okay, no shutdown. So now this is being set. The next thing, we have configured our TV interface. The next thing is to set a route to say if these two networks that are behind this router, if they need to come to any network, either this network or this network, they should just forward the traffic to this particular interface of this router. So we can just set just the default route here to point to this particular interface here. So I'll just set a default route. I'll take exit, and I'll take IP route. The destination is anywhere. With the subnet mask of anywhere, send it to 10.0.0.2. That's going to be the next router. That's router 2. And router 2 know how to reach them there. And then we can just save what we have done. Go right now. The next thing is just to configure the next router here. That's router 2. And while we're inside router 2, just do the same thing, do conf, enter the configuration terminal, and we'll configure our interfaces as well. So here, gi0/0, okay, enter in gi 0/0, and we add our IP address, IP that's 10.0.0.2. Put the subnet mask 255.255.255.0, and take no shutdown to bring the interface up. Go to the next interface in gi0/1. Add the IP address that's supposed to be there. Let's check the IP address. The IP address is 192.168.1.1. 192.168.1.1. Put the subnet mask 255.255.0. Take no shutdown as well. To bring it up, the next interface we want to do is gi0/2, and take IP add gi0/2. No, I think we need to, let's enter the interface int gi0/2, read enter, then IP add, that's 192.168.2.1, subnet mask of 255.255.2.5.0, then read enter, no shutdown as well. And equally, after configuring the IP addresses in the router, we need to also make sure that these two networks on this side of the router can be able to access the other side. So create another default route to point to this particular interface here, 10.0.0.1. So we can now do that. Let me take exit. I can take IP route. The destination is anywhere. That's the default route. With the subnet mask of 0.0.0, we should forward it to the other side, 10.0.0.1, and take we can now take the do right name, and take the do right name to save what we have done there. So we are done with the boot routers. We are going to test that. So let's go back and check our devices. So I'll start with the web server here. I'm going to configure its IP addresses, and we'll work with that as well. So we'll go to the web server here. I'll try to double click, hopefully. Okay, still booting up. What about Active Directory domain controller? Is still booting. And intermediate CA, all of them are still booting up. Okay. So with that being said, I'll just try to go to Root Certificate Authority to set up its IP address. You can permit us to do that. Control and then so put in the password here. That's test 1 2 3. Read enter there, and once that's done, we can go to set the IP address of the device. So I'm just going to go to local servers here, and we can click on, I'll just click on the IP address here, and let's wait for it to boot up as well. The servers, our web server is still booting, and our Active Directory domain controller as well is still booting, and the Intermediate Certificate Authority is booting up. So we'll just give it some time. Okay, I'll come back to the Root Certificate Authority here. I'll right click and I'll go to properties. Under properties, we'll go to IPv4. I'll just double click there and ensure to put a gateway. So the gateway is going to be 10.10.10.1, 10.10.10.1, and the DNS server. DNS is not really necessary since you'll be offline, but if you were to place a DNS server that can look for devices, I think we can place this on our domain controller since it's equally going to have the DNS services running. We'll just place it there, 192.168.1.1. 2.10 as such. And I'll take OK. Take OK like this. I'll take yes, I'll accept that. And the next thing that we want to do is let's check our devices so that we can input the IP addresses available there. I'll just go back to these are servers here. Most of them are still trying to boot up. So while that's still booting up, I'll move ahead to our user PC here to also input his IP address. Hopefully goes well too. And once it's up, I'll just right click at the bottom here and I'll go to open network and internet settings. So we'll just wait for it to open up. Let's check if our servers are actually on. Most of them are still booting. They are still booting here, still booting up. Let's just give it some time. So while we wait for them as they are booting, I'm just going to come here to add an IP address on our user PC here. Since our user PC is also going to join the domain, we must make sure that the DNS server actually points to our Active Directory domain controller, since it's going to also be acting as it's going to be having the DNS functionalities too. So I'm going to double click on change adapter options. Let's just be patient for it to come up. Okay, it has come up. I'll just right click and as usual we'll go to properties. I'll right click and go to properties. While you wait for it to load. Let me go back to change adapter options. So right click there and go to properties, and while we're in properties, go to IPv4 and double click there as well, and we'll put the IP address of the user PC. So based on the topology we have, we see the IP address is 192.168.168.2.10. That's what we have there. The subnet mask is there, and then the gateway 192.168.2.1. Make sure you put the DNS server there. So that's 192.168.1.10. That's the IP address of our domain controller, since it's going to have the DNS functionalities as well. So take OK, and they'll take OK as such, and that should be that. If we go back to our servers that we have there, so we can equally input their IP addresses as well. I'll just take here next. We'll take next here as well. We'll take accept, and we'll put the password now of our sub certificate authority. I'm just going to put test 1 2 3. tab, I'll put test 1, 2, 3 as well. We'll hit finish. We'll go as well to our Active Directory domain controller. Is still booting up. Our web server is also booting up. So I'll come to our user PC here. I'll just take yes. And while we are waiting for our servers to boot up, let me go to our Root CA here. It's still booting up as well. Okay, it's back now. So before coming here, I would just like to check if the IP address has actually taken effect on our user PC. I'll just take IP config. Okay, the IP address is there. Let's go back to our Root CA and equally do the same thing by just setting the IP addresses to. So I'm going to input the password, that's test123, hit enter there. Let's check. Our domain controller is still booting. Okay, it's back. I'll just take next. Let's give it some time there. So give it some time there. I'll just take accept. And I'll put the password here. That's test123. I'll put test123 as well. And hit enter there. What about the web server? Is it ready? Web server is also ready. I'll just hit next. And hold on. So I'll come to our subordinate certificate authority here. We're just trying to put in our IP addresses for the test end-to-end communication first before we start the process. So this is our sub CA. Let's wait for it to boot up here. So I'll just take on our web server, I'll just take next. I'm going to put in the password there. That's test123. Now another one, hit enter there. So our sub CA is up. I'm just going to go to local servers here, and I'll just click on the IP address that's here. IPv4 address assign. So we can try to change the IP address of the device. Right click on it, on Ethernet there, go to properties. IPv4. And here we'll put the IP address of the device. So for the sub CA, the IP address is 172.168.1.10. 72.168.1.10. And the subnet mask is 255. Make sure you put another 255 for reason /24 cider. And you have 172.168.1.1. That's the gateway. Make sure you also put the DNS server as well. 192.168.1.10. This is the IP address of our domain controller, since it's going to equally have the no. Yes, I think I made an error here. It's supposed to be 16, not 168. 172.16. So we'll take OK. And we take OK. There. That should be that. And just accept yes. And go to our Active Directory domain controller to set this IP address as well. Do the same thing. Let's wait for it to come up. Put the password that's supposed to be there. Yes, it's 1, 2, 3. Hit enter. Go to our web server as well. Control Alt screen, Control Alt del, and let's see this one. Just close this. So we are also going to be changing the name of our devices. So we have to name them correctly. But we are going to be renaming them when we want to join the domain controller, so that it just reboots once and it joins the domain controller as well as changes the name. But for our root certificate authority, we'll have to change the name, and then it's not going to join the domain. So we'll do that so that we don't get to boot our server twice, so that we don't waste a lot of time. So the next thing that we're going to do here on we're going to do the same thing on our domain controller to add the IP address as well. On our web server, let's see if it's ready. We'll put our password to there. That's test 1, 2, 3. Enter there, and should wait for it to load up. So our domain controller is ready. So we can go to local servers and then just click on IPv4 address. That's beside Ethernet. So while we are here, we are going to right click this. And once we right click this, we can go to properties as usual. So once we are here, we can go to IPv4, click on the folder, add the folder, use the foreign IP address, and put the IP address of the domain controller. That's 192.168.1.10. And the gateway, the subnet mask is going to be as such. The gateway is 192.168.1.1. There's no need a DNS server here because the DNS points to itself, the domain controller. So we'll take OK. And I think that's going to be that for the domain controller for now. We're also going to move to our web server here. I'll just take yes here first. We're going to move to our web server, and then we'll just go to local servers as well. And then we should be able to add the IP address from here too. We can come to, let's wait for it to load. We can click on IPv4 addresses. So you can right click that. Then we'll go to properties. And after that, we'll go to IPv4. And we set the IP address. So for the web server, the IP address is 192.168.1.11. Subnet mask CIDR 24. And then the gateway that we have the 192.168.1.1. So he has also have the DNS server as well. That's 192.168.1.10. There, we validate it, we take OK, and it should boot up. Once there, take yes. So so far we have added the IP addresses on our devices just as it looks here. So we are going to go to our root certificate authority, and then we are going to rename the device, and then after that we are going to configure our domain controller here so that we can then join the other devices to be part of the domain and proceed along. As we move, we are going to be explaining the different steps. So I'll just go to our root certificate authority that we have there. Such, I'm going to come back here and I'm going to rename it. I'm going to click at the top here where it says double tech. and I'll go to change. Once you go to change, you can name it as, let's say, PKI. You can name it as such, PKI hyphen root .ca. I'll just allow it like this. You don't need to, just need to allow it the way it is. It's not going to join the domain, so it's going to be offline. So take OK, and once we take OK, we are supposed to going to prompt us for a reboot, to take close, and we're going to restart the device. So once it restarts, while it's restarting, we are going to go to, let's say, our domain controller here. So, but before we even go ahead to start implementing key things, I want us to test for connectivity between the different devices. Let's ensure that we can be able to reach the various devices. Let's try to see if maybe our routes and everything that we have configured is working. So I'll try to ping, for instance, here the domain controller, that's 192.168.1.10, for instance. So it's actually not reachable, and most times you realize the reason why it's not going to be reachable like this is because of the firewall within the devices. So for the purpose of this lab, probably I'll just turn off the firewall so go a little bit fast, but it's not best practice to turn down the firewall. You can always maybe permit specific traffic as you reach, based on what traffic you want to permit to actually pass through on that device then as such. So I'll try to reach out to my gateway here before I conclude. Ping 192.168.192.168.2.1. So with that, so we can reach the gateway. So if you go to our domain controller here, I'm just going to close this. I'll turn down the firewall so go a little bit fast. I'll just click on firewall, in the firewall defender there. I'm just going to turn down the firewall for now first. Click OK. I'll equally turn this down first for now. But there's a better way to do this rather than just turning down the firewall. You can always permit specific ICMP traffic, or based on whatever service you're using, so that you can use that to ensure that the security is put in place and not just vulnerable. So I'll try from the user PC again to reach our domain controller that we tried to reach before. And right now we can reach it. So the firewall was the one preventing the traffic from moving. And I'll just turn down the firewall for the web server as well here. I'll just turn this down here, search, switch this off for now. So we try to reach our web server, that's 192.168.11. Try to reach that, and it's reachable. So we are equally going to try to reach our sub CA here. Like before shutting down the firewall of the sub CA, I just say ping, for instance, 172.168.1.10, for instance. Let's see, it keeps failing because the firewall is actually preventing that traffic from going through. So we'll come to private here on our subordinate certificate authority. We probably try to turn it down temporarily. So after doing that, I'll close this. We'll go back to our user PC there, and then we'll try to reach it again. So end-to-end communication there is reachable as of now, as such. So that's one thing to do. Now the next thing that we are going to do is, after we have normally seen that there is end-to-end traffic that is possible, I'll go back to our root certificate authority here, and I just want to verify that. Let's try to reach, let's from our user PC here, I'll try to ping the root certificate authority, that's 10.10.10.1. No, that's not the IP, that's the gateway for that network. But then, for instance, we reach that. So the root CA as well, we need to send down the firewall here as well. Test 1, 2, 3. Local log. Click OK, and put in our password, and hopefully opens a little bit fast for us to move. So right now, what we are simply doing is we have just configured IP addresses, and we are just trying to ensure that there is communication. The underlying network devices can actually be able to communicate with each other. So that in case, let's say, when we start moving forward with our configurations, we can be sure that the problem is not with our network. The problem is definitely with what we are trying to work on at that particular moment, in case there's a problem. So I'm going to switch this off first for now. I'll switch this off as well. And also here, we'll also switch this off too. And I'll close it. So I'm going to go back to our user PC here. I'll try to reach the server there. And okay, now it's going through. So I've seen that we can be able to reach our devices. Hope that we have turned it off on the web server. Let me see what we have here. It is equally off there as well. And our sub CA is off on all these devices too. So now, what we now have to do based on our topology we have here, we're going to try to configure this server to act like the root certificate authority here. So I'm just going to go on to our Windows server there, and then we'll go to our dashboard, for instance. Once you're on your dashboard, you can click add roles and features. So we are trying to make this server to act like the root certificate authority. So currently here we are equally on the sub certificate authority. So we have to instead move to the root certificate authority instead. So make sure that you're on the root certificate authority, the PKI root. So you can go to dashboard and you click on add roles and features, and you take next. You click on next and you take next. So when you're here, make sure you choose the Active Directory Certificate Services at the top there. Then you add features. Once you're done with that, you can now take next. That's all you have to do here. Once you take next, the next thing you have to do is just take next again. And when you get to this page, you can equally click the Certificate Authority Web Enrollment. Normally, it's not really necessary for this the root PKI to have that second option ticked, but you can still just tick it anyway, like that. So you have these two checked, and then you move to the next. You actually move to next, take next, and we are going to hit install. So once it's done, we'll configure it. It's a service that's necessary to actually make this server to become the root certificate authority. So we'll configure it as such when it's done with the installation. So we're going to now move to our Active Directory domain controller here. We must make sure that we rename this domain controller. So I'm going to click the name of the domain controller. I'm going to ADDC. We can go to change, and while we are on change, you can click the name of the device. What name do we want to give it? We want to give it the name of let's say ADDC, for instance, Active Directory Domain Controller, and we'll take OK. It's supposed to reboot first, then we are going to configure it now to become the domain controller. So take close here, and it should prompt us for a restart, and once it restarts, then we'll configure that. So let's look at our root certificate authority here. It's still installing. So our web server here, we're only going to be working on this after they have joined the domain. But while they're coming, maybe we can just be renaming them as well. I'll just rename our web server here. I'll change the name. We can change it to web as such. Let me see. I just change it to web the way it is here. We take OK, and once you take OK, it's going to form this. We're going to also restart it as well. Take restart now. We can go to our sub certificate authority here. I'll close this, and we're equally going to try to rename our device too. So we'll come to server, so go to computer name, we'll click on it, and once you click on it, you click on change. Once you click on change, you can now also click on how you want to name the sub CA. So you can just call it sub, and call it sub, just like the SUB. That is going to, it's like the name of the device. We're just naming it as a subordinate certificate authority. It's going to be acting on behalf of the root certificate authority. You click OK. Once you click OK, the next thing that we want to do is it's going to prompt us for this. So I'm going to equally take OK and take close, and our device is equally going to restart. We'll click that restart button for it to restart. So we have renamed our sub CA. We have equally renamed our Active Directory Domain Controller, our web server. We have renamed it as well. PKI, we renamed it, and our services are actually still installing. So I'll come back to our sub CA here is restarting. Our Active Directory Domain Controller here is equally done with the reboot. So we'll just try to log in. Make sure that before anything, after you've added your IP addresses and you've renamed the devices, make sure you start with the configuration of your domain controller. The domain controller has to be up first, and then the sub CA, the web server, and even the user PC, they join the domain before we can go ahead to start configuring, let's say, our sub CA to become the subordinate certificate authority, and we equally have our root CA here as well. So we can configure the root CA first. After that, we configure our Active Directory Domain Controller while it's running, and let's say our sub CA, web server, and user PC, they have all joined the domain. Then we can now configure the sub CA to be now have the authority from the root PKI here to perform its functions. So I'm just going to delete this, and I'm going to go to none. Here, I'll put in the password as test123. I'll turn off cap lock and test123. Enter the domain controller, should be booting up. So we'll just wait for that to boot. So while that has booted up, the next thing that we'll have to do is we need to wait for the server manager to open up. Once it opens up, then we are going to download the services, the features necessary for making the domain controller function. So click on, we just wait for this load, this load here to be complete. And once it's complete, we'll click on add roles and features. Okay, let's wait for it to be complete. It's still booting up. Okay, I think it should be ready anytime soon. So click on add roles and features. Once it opens up, you take next. You take next again, allow the default. You take next as well. And once that's ready, make sure you click on Active Directory Domain Services. You click on that, you take add. And the next thing you want to check is make sure you check the DNS server here, because Active Directory needs DNS to function properly. So you take next as well, and you take next, and you take next, next also, and you take install. So wait for it to install, and we'll configure this particular server to act like the Active Directory Domain Controller. The next thing, that while we are waiting for this to be installing, what we are going to do is we are going to move to PKI Root CA and check if the configuration, the installation process is complete. So it just got completed. So configuring this is not actually connected so much to the domain controller. So you can go ahead to do this. So you can start to configure the PKI Root CA first as such. So I'll just take here close. And when I take here close, I'm going to click on this notification icon here. We're going to configure the Active Directory Certificate Services. So I'll click there. So this prompting is going to open up as such. We'll just take next. From here, we're going to check the box that says Certificate Authority and Certification Authority Web Enrollment. So I'm going to take next. We will now choose, it's a standalone, it's not an enterprise. This is a root CA. Make sure you choose standalone. we take next, and here you leave it as root CA. We want it to be the root certificate authority, and then here we can create a new key, just allow it as such, you take next, and here you can even allow it as such, or maybe take the highest level of key length, that's 4096, and you allow everything the way it is here. Let me just click this. Allow initiator to interact on the private key, and allow it as such. Take next. Here we can just change this to, instead of CAC, we can remove one of the CS in front there, and we take next. Here we can change how valid the validity period of it. We can make it to like 10 years, for instance. We can change it to 10. That's how valid this year is going to. This is select the validity period for the certificate generated for this certificate authority. So this is going to be valid for 10 years. We take next, and we just take next, and we take configure. Okay. So that's going to be, when it's done, then the root certificate authority is going to now be ready to perform its root functions. So while this is installing the root CA, we're going to head over back to our domain controller here to see if the installations are also done here. So the Active Directory installation processes, they actually still run. So just hold on for that. And so let's just wait for it to be done, and then we move to the next part. So the first phase of all of this configuration that we are going to be doing here is, firstly, we are going to try to make sure that the root certificate authority actually gives permission for this particular server here, the sub CA, to be the intermediate certificate authority or the subordinate certificate authority. And then after that, the next phase now is going to be for this sub certificate authority to actually validate, let's say, a request from this our web server here to make sure that its own locally hosted website is actually mentioned as secured when a user tries to access that locally hosted website. So those are the two phases there, like that. So as we progress, we'll be seeing through. So right now at this phase, we are just in the phase of configuring. We have just configured the root CA to know that you are the main guy that's going to be issuing certificates. Right now, we are at the phase of, we are going to move then to the phase of configuring the sub CA to actually ensure that it's the subordinate by it ensuring that the request for permission from the root CA, then the root CA is going to validate that request, and then it's going to become the subordinate certificate authority that's going to be giving out certificates. So we'll just wait here for our Active Directory domain controller to be good. While that is equally going on, we can come back here to this our user PC to rename it also if we never renamed it. You can come here as well. You can click on, let's say, the file explorer at the bottom of your screen here. Just can click on it and just hold on. Once it's open, you can click on this PC. Once this PC opens up, you can just right click on this particular area here, then you go to properties. Once you go to properties, the next thing that you want to do is you want to go to change settings. And once you go to change settings, what you want to do is you go to change, just change at the bottom, and you can give it a name. You can just say, you can rename it to user. Let's say user PC, like this. So take OK. You're just going to have a reboot. Whenever you rename the device, a reboot actually happens. So we'll take OK. Once we take OK, we take close. Then we'll take restart as usual. Now, after that, let's just go back to our domain controller and see if it's okay. So our domain controller, that's going to be this Active Directory domain controller services. You want to configure it. So we must take, I need to take close here. And once you take close, you go to this notification bar, you click there and you say promote this server to a domain controller. So we'll promote it as such. Once you do that, you can now go to add a new forest. Add a new forest. We'll put our domain name here. We'll just put Dobro. Can put in lowercase letters, dobro.local, like this. So you put dobro.local, we take next. Then here we can put in a password and just maintain, let's say test 123, hit tab, we take test 1, 2, 3, yeah, so now we take next. Take next as well. We hold on for the net BIOS name to be generated. So we take next. We equally click on next as well, and take next as well. And once we are here, we take install here. So once it's done, definitely it's going to reboot our domain controller. And once our domain controller comes up, it's now going to be running as our Active Directory domain controller. So once that's done, we'll get to it. Let's go to our root certificate authority. So it's done here. And once our root certificate authority is done with the installation, that means it simply means that this particular server now is going to be acting like the root certificate authority. So you can come here to tools, and once you click on tools, you can go to certification authorities. So once you go to certification authorities, this tab is going to open up. So if you click here, you can see that these are the functionalities that the certificate authority has. It has the ability to revoke certificates. It has the ability to issue. When someone makes a request, you can see it under pending requests, and you can see requests that actually failed. So that's what's going to happen here. And you can download our root certificate authority from here directly. So now, while our domain controller is here, it's actually in progress installing. On the root certificate authority, I would just like us to go to our desktop, for instance. I'll just minimize this page, and we'll go to our desktop. Once we get to our desktop, we'll just create a folder here, and we'll call this folder, let's see, I'll just say new folder, and we'll call this folder root. We'll just say root files, for instance, like this, and we hit enter here. And but the reason why we're doing this is because remember that based on our topology, we are going to have our subordinate certificate authority here, and we are going to have our root certificate authority. Normally, the subordinate certificate authority is going to request permission from the root so that it can become the subordinate. So it's going to generate a request file. So we need to carry that file over to the root certificate authority. And when the root certificate authority validates it, we need to carry that file back to the sub certificate authority. So since we are actually in a virtual environment here, we cannot say that we are going to use a USB in this environment. So we are going to use a file sharing method where we say that, okay, we can share this folder so that maybe anyone within the network can access it. So if, let's say, we put a file here, the file can also be accessed from, let's say, the sub CA PC, and then we can take things from there and use as necessary. So you right click on it, you take properties, and then you go to the sharing tab up here, you go to share, and then once share opens, you click this drop down arrow, you click on, let's say, everyone, for instance. For this lab purpose, you click on instance. Under the readme, you take read write permissions, you take share as such, then you take done. Once you're done with that, you go to advanced sharing. Under advanced sharing, make sure you click share this folder. Once you share this folder, you click on permissions. Once you click on permissions, you now make sure you can give full control, and you take apply, and you take OK. Once that's OK, you can then take close. You can take apply again on this side, and you take OK, and you take now close. So this file has anything we place in this particular file here on all the other devices you can get as well. So we're going to do the same on the sub CA, but let's look at our domain controller. It's still restarting. So we'll just go ahead to our sub CA here, if it's still on, and we should be able to create a folder there as well, and then we actually give it the file permission so that whatever we place there can be accessed by other devices as well. So let's give it some time to load here. It was off. We're going to log in. I'll go here to control alert bell, and just go to none. And while we are here, I'm just going to input test 1, 2, 3. Cap lock is on. I'll move that. test 1, 2, 3, we hit enter them. So once it's here, or let's just hold on. Let's not do that now. Let's wait for the sub CA to join the domain before we actually create the file, that particular folder in there. Let's hold on for that. So let's go to our domain controller. Our domain controller is still loading up, and we equally have our web server here. We cannot really do much with them now until they have joined the domain. After you've given the IP address and you've renamed it, especially for all the servers, make sure that they join the domain controller first before you start making the necessary changes as we are going to be doing. So let's wait for our domain controller to be done with starting, and then from there we are going to be good to go. So while waiting for it to reboot, what we need to note is we are going to actually generate a request from the subordinate certificate. We'll carry that request because the request is going to be demanding the root certificate authority to validate it, to give it authority to be able to validate, to be able to issue certificates on its behalf. So we'll have that request, and we are going to carry it to the root certificate authority. The root certificate authority is equally going to do what? It's going to validate that request and give it permissions. So there's a particular file path there when we are trying to create our root certificate authority. Let's even go there straight away right now. So we can go to our root certificate authority here, and there's a structure that I would like to show us. There's a path. Let me open the server, on the root server here. If you go to, for instance, we go to tools, or go to the certificate authority platform that we open here. To get here, you just need to go to tools and you click on certificate authority. It's going to open as such. If you right click here, you realize that if you go to properties, for instance, you go to properties, you'll see the certificate itself and the details. So let's wait for it to be loaded while we are there. So now this actually these are some of the properties of the root certificate authority. If you come to extensions here, you realize that we have some few extensions. Now this extension, there are some few extensions that we have to add here, because since our root certificate authority is going to be offline, the subordinate certificate authority is going to be acting on his behalf. So there are some two parts that we need to add. We need to add the certificate revocation distribution point, and we equally need to add the authority information access point. These two parts. The reason being that when this root certificate authority is going to sign that request from the subordinate certificate authority, is going to input these two parts, parts like this, into that subordinate certificate authority's certificate that is going to generate here. The reason being that since it's going to be offline, if let's say a particular web server here wants to verify that, okay, he wants to verify, let's say for instance, the authority information access. That's if you want to verify whether the root CA is the one that actually permitted for the sub CA to be created, he has to go and check in the part that we're going to specify. So the part that we specify here, the root CA is going to say that, okay, if any person wants to verify that I'm the one that has done something, go to this part. He's going to say go to this part that we are going to specify, and the part we are going to specify it inside the subordinate certificate authority. And also the root CA is going to say that if let's say someone wants to verify whether a certificate has been revoked, go to the part that we are going to specify here. That's the subordinate certificate authority. So we are going to input those two parts here, and then when now the subordinate certificate authority is going to be validated, when its certificate is going to be created from here, the root CA is going to input those two parts in the certificate itself, and when the sub CA installs it, then it's going to be made valid through that point. This particular step that we want to do is actually very vital for these two devices to be able to connect to each other. So we are going to come here back to our PKI root system here, and we are going to now we are going to start with the CRL distribution point, the CDP. So when we come here, you can now click on add. I'm just going to look for the part that we are going to use. There's a specific part that we should know how to use to be able to. There's a specific part that I'm going to share with us so that we can use that particular part to input here. And you need to make sure that it matches yours. So let me see. Mm. So in that case, the part that we are going to be needing is, let me scroll to the bottom here, and let me see, it should be right here. Let me see this one. Let me see this. So let me bring the part up so that we can all use it. Yes. So this is the part here like this. If you can take a screenshot of this, if you can take a screenshot of this before proceed, that's going to be good. But make sure, like here, if you look here, it says http colon / subca.dobre.local. On our part here, since if you come to our subca, we have named our subca. We go to local servers there. We have named our subca as sub, not subca. So on this particular part that we have here, we must make sure that it shows that sub.dobre.local, not subca. Subca is the name of the device of our subordinate certificate authority device. So, but in this case, the name of our device here is sub. So you must just put sub.dobre.local and you put this part as well. So maintain this particular part. Even here as well, you change the sub CA, change it here just to sub.dobre.local and you continue just the way it is. The CRL and the CRT here and the CRL. Make sure you maintain the capital letters just the way they are here, because if you misput, even if you put a lowercase letter where it's supposed to be an uppercase letter, you're going to have some problems. So I'm just going to be doing that right now on the root certificate authority here. So I'll come here to this endpoint here, and once we are here, I'll make sure that if you click the CRL distribution point, you can now take add at this point here. Once you take add, you must make sure now put this location, and this location is the location that will be present in the subordinate certificate authority. So I'll just type it in the http colon / then I'll put sub.dobre.local like this, and we'll now put a / PKI / the greater than symbol CA name. Sorry, that was the less than symbol, now the greater than symbol. We probably now have the less than symbol again to put the CRL name suffix. CRL name suffix. Put our less than sign, our greater than sign, we'll put a less than symbol again. CRL name suffix. And then after that, we are going to put delta CRL allow. Delta CRL allow. Delta CRL allow. Put our greater than symbol, and after the greater than symbol, what we need to do is to put a full stop and we'll take CRL there, not CRT. So when you're done with that, you now make sure you double check sub.dobre.local / PKI / CNA. It's inside the greater than and less, the less than and greater than symbol, same as here, delta CRL allowed. All right. So if that's being said and everything is okay, then you can now click on OK here. So once you click on OK, you can check these two boxes. You should include them in the client, include in CRL client use that and equally include in the CVP extension of the issued certificate, like that. The next thing we want to do is we hit the drop down arrow and go to the AIA part as well. When you get here, you click on add. Once you click on add, you normally add the other part as well. You click http:// and you put sub.double.local. Once you do that, you can then hit the / again and you hit PKI. Once you hit PKI, you hit /, you put the less than symbol, and then you hit server with the capital letter and such, and server DNS in capital letters, name, like that, and underscore, the greater than symbol, they put underscore there, and you put the less than symbol, CA name, like that, and you put the greater than symbol, and you put the full stop, and you put CRT. So that's what you have to do. You put the CRT there, and you take OK. So for check, make sure you put sub.that. You first check that, and you take OK, like this. So when you take that, you click on include in the AIA extension of the issued certificate. Make sure that you are okay, you can confirm that what's here is actually there, and the local is your domain name on the Active Directory domain controller side there. So here, let's see, we are off already, but you can come back here. We'll just take apply now, and you must restart here, so take OK, and let's wait for Active Directory certificate service to restart for that to take effect. So make sure that you do this first. This particular lines have to be inputted, because we want to generate now the root certificate, the root CA's own certificate. This information is going to be inputted within that certificate itself. So if we go to the other part here, let's check and see here, everything is okay. You click at the bottom. This is a new part that we added. You click, you see those two things, these two ticks are added there. So that's okay. You can now take OK there, like that. So now we'll just keep everything pending such the way it is here. We'll move back to our Active Directory domain controller first. Before configuring the sub CA, we must make sure that the Active Directory domain controller, everything looks set there. So I'll hit Control Del, and we'll go back to none here. And once we are here, I'll input the password there, and I'll just test 1, 2, 3. Hit enter. You can see now we are logging in as Google administrator. Hit enter there. So let's wait for it to have the reboot. And at this point, the steps are very important. Remember, from here, we are going to download our root certificate authority certificate. These are PKI root CA certificate. We'll download it from here. It's another part that we are going to go and get some pull files that are necessary. As we progress, we'll mention that currently we cannot configure this subordinate certificate authority to be the sub for now, because it has not yet joined the domain. So we are configuring our Active Directory domain controller first, so that once it's ready, and let's say this device has joined the domain, and this other device has joined, and this device has joined, then we can now proceed to like configuring subordinate certificate authority. So Active Directory domain controller is up, and let's wait for it to come. You can click on the search bar here, or let's hold on. I think it's still booting. So let's wait for it to have the reboot. And once this reboot is okay here, Active Directory domain controller is definitely already going to be set. Let's go to local server there. We can then see that this is the name of the computer, ADDC, and our domain name is double.local. So That's being done there. So the next thing is we want to try to create some two users or maybe some few users, and then we use them to be able to log into the different devices. Let's say for instance, we can come to let's say we'll go to Active Directory users and computers. So we'll click on Active Directory users and computers. Once it opens up, we are going to try to create one more user. Normally, you can create a single user and then you give that particular user administrative access. It's not always good to use the administrator to be logging in your system. You can, like, if you come to users here, you can double click inside here or something like that. I'll just expand this a bit, and you can create an admin user. And once you create that admin user, you can now give that, you can place that admin user into a group here to give them privileges, so that you'll be using that admin to be doing administrative tasks, not just using the administrator itself. Let's say if something goes wrong. But let's say because of time, I'll try to just create we have an administrator, that the administrator user is already here. I'll create one more user again. I'll just create new. I'll just say new, and I'll go to user. After I right click on that space, I'll just create a username like Dan, use a sample, and we probably just give the name here Dan as well. So I'll give that name Dan. I'll just take next, and I'll just say maybe the user cannot change the password. Based on what you want, you can actually play around here. The best practice should be maybe the user should be able to change their password when they next log in, so that they can have some privacy. So here we can actually put a password test123, go to tab, go to test123, like that. We take next. Once take next, we take finish. Yeah. So once that's done, we've created the new user Dan. So we're going to just be using administrator and Dan, but it's not always good to use the administrator. You can actually create, let's say, another user, and then you put them in the necessary admin groups here, so that if in case that particular user is compromised, you still have the administrator account that's actually there. So the next thing that we're going to do is we've created these users here. The next thing, after the Directory Domain Controller is set, is up and is ready, we'll just now join the different devices to that domain controller there. So I'll just try to log into our web server. I can start from there. I'll click Control Alt Del to try to log in. I'm going to just say I'll put in the password here. That's test123. Cap lock is on. I put in test123 there, hit enter. I'm equally just going to try to log into our sub CA also here, since we are going to be making it to join the domain as well. And I'll just click on work group here. When you click on work group, you can now click where it says change. And then here now you click on domain. So once you click on domain here, you put the domain that you want to join. So the domain we created at the level of the domain controller was dubro.local, for instance, like this. So we created dubro.local. So I'm just going to put that domain and I'll hit OK. If you can reach it, then it's going to bring up this prompt. And we are going to log in as, let's say, administrator, and we put the password of that administrator account there. For instance, we take test123, we hit OK. If all goes well, then we should join the domain as such. So it says welcome to Dover, the local domain. So take OK. So after taking OK, definitely we have to restart this computer as well again. So restart, click that and take a restart. The next thing is to move to our web server that we have here. We go to local servers. While we are inside local servers, then we can now click on work group. So when we click on work group, we can now take change. Once you hit change, you maintain the name the way it is there. So once you come here, you click domain. You click the domain as well. That's docker.local that we create. Make sure you maintain the name that you used there as well. So once you do that, you take docker.local, you take OK. So once you take OK, will definitely give us this prompt. You can log in using the admin user, administrator, and then we can put in the password, that's test123, like that, and then we'll take OK. So we take that and we'll use can now take says welcome to the Google the local domain. Yes, it's joining. We take OK, a restart is required. We take close, and yes, I'm just going to restart the device. So now our sub CA is actually joining the domain, our web server is joining. Let's go to our user PC here. Let's just join it as once at once here. So it's opening up. So to join the domain here, we normally go to, let's wait for it to boot up. We normally go to, you can double click on this file explorer at the bottom here, or just click once. So once we click once, you want to go double click on this PC, and then you right click inside here, and then you go to properties. Once you get to properties, what you want to do is you want to click on the change settings here. Once you click on change settings to change the computer name or the work group, here you go to change, and once you click on change, make sure you click domain, and you click domain here. Once you joining the Dubro.local domain, you take OK, and then if it goes well, yes, you should join the domain, and that is you can log in here as Dan. We're not going to log in as administrator. You can log in as a regular user here, and I'll put the password test123. So once we log in as that user, we can hit OK, like that. So once we take OK, of course, it's going to want us to reboot the system after it has joined. It says welcome. We take OK, and then we take close here, like this, and we'll do a restart as well. So now let's check if our sub CA has finished joining the domain. So it has joined the domain now. Let's log in, and then we'll configure it to be the root, the intermediate certificate authority server then. So let's just wait for it to reboot like this. So we're not going to log in as administrator here. We can log in as other. We click on this other right here, and you can put in the name here at administrator. After I put administrator, you can now put no. Like here, if you put administrator, you see it has changed from to sign into sub. But I don't want to sign into sub, so I want to sign into administrator. You can go back to the beginning here, and we'll put the BIOS name. Let's try to go back there. You can now put, let's say in cap lock, let's say Dubro. I'll put backslash here, and I'll hit tab to come here, and then I'll put the password. So you see it has maintained Dubro. So here I'll just put in the password that's necessary there. I'll put test123. I'll log in to our sub CA there. So let's wait for it to come in so that we can configure it, and then once it's ready, then we can proceed as well. So let's look at our root certificate authorities. Is it on or off? Okay, still on here. Okay, let me close this routers. I think all of them are good. So we'll come to our sub CA here. I think it's still booting. So let's wait for it to boot up. And what else? Okay. Let's just wait for it to boot up. All right. So now our subordinate certificate authority has joined the domain successfully. So now we can proceed to the installation of the services that will actually make it to become the sub CA as well. So let's wait for server manager to open up and load. Once it loads, we'll go to the add roles and features to be able to add the certificate authority features there as well. So let's wait for it to finish this internal boot. Equally, we can go to our web server here as well and install some key things that is equally going to need while they are both booting. So I'll go to none here, and instead of logging in as an administrator, we'll click others, and I'll just log in here like Dubro backslash, and we're going to log in as administrator. and I'll put the password as test 1, 2, 3. Hit enter there. It should log us in. So I'll go to sub CA here, and it seems to still be booting. Let's just give it some time. Okay, it's done with the boot. So here under the in the sub CA, what we need to install, we'll go to add roles and features. You click on next, you click on next, you click next. So here we're going to click on the Active Directory certificate services. This is what we want. We're going to click on that, and then we are going to take next. We're going to add the features then. After adding that, we're also going to click the web server because we want people to be able to request for certificates. Like, we need this particular web server services. So we're just going to add the IIS, this web server IIS service. So we're going to click that and we'll take next. So once we take next, we equally take next as well. Here, you make sure that you click Certificate Authority Web Enrollment. It simply means that we also want clients, if let's say like the web server then needs a certificate, they can be able to use the web browser to request for a certificate from the sub CA, and then you can actually have that certificate validated like that. So we need that particular service running there. So take yes, and I'll take next, and I'll take next, I'll take install there like this. So while it's installing, we can equally move to the web server here, and the web server also needs some key roles that have to be running as well. So we'll go to add roles and features, and we'll take next, we take next, take next. And once we are here, what we need to add here is the web server IIS. We need to make sure that web server functionality, since this is what our local website is going to be, we need to make sure that the web services are running. So we need to install it. So take next, and we'll take next, and we'll take install like this. We'll take install. So let's wait for both of them to install. This subsea is still installing. Web server is actually still installing. So now, while it's installing here, the key things that we have to do, we need to make sure that, because if you remember, when we're creating our when we're actually creating the root CA, we actually specified some parts. When we're creating the root CA, we specify some parts within the root CA certificate, and that part, we need to make sure that that part is actually available within this sub CA server as well. So I just want to bring up the part for us to see and to know those parts. Okay, here they are. So these are the two parts that at the level of the root CA, we actually made this particular part to be available. This PKI, this PKI is a folder within the sub CA. So we need to make sure that this particular folder structure is available within the web server profile. So once our IIS is installed on the sub CA, we are going to make sure that we create that part as well. We need it then. So while it's loading, the key concept here we're supposed to know is that the Root CA is giving the sub certificate authority permissions to be issuing certificates on his behalf. And when you hit your browser, that maybe you want to access, let's say, our local website, your browser is going to check, do I have the root certificate authority within myself here first? When it checks and it has it, it's going to check this sub CA. It's going to check also the web server certificate that is going to receive, and it's going to check this sub CA that actually validated this web server certificate. Is it actually the root CA that validated it? And it's going to know based on the parts, because we have told, instead of going to the root CA to check, based on those parts that we have put in place, it's going to come to the sub CA to check that particular part. So if the part is not available there, then there's a problem. There's a problem with that verification, since the root CA is offline, meaning that it's not part of the domain. We did not join it to be part of the Active Directory domain name services. there as well. So we'll just wait for these installations to be complete. Let's see, are there some other things we could be doing? Let's see why we are waiting for the installations. Okay, we can come to the sub CA here as well, and we can create a folder on the desktop, and we can just right click here and go to new, and we'll take folder, and we can name it sub CA files here like this. We can give it file permissions as well. We can right click, we can go to properties. Once we go to properties, we go to the sharing tab, click on share. Once we click on share, we make sure we hit the drop down arrow, hit everyone for instance, and we'll take add. Once you hit add, you hit the drop down arrow there, and you give it read write permissions, you take share. Once you're done with the share, take done. Once you take done, you can go to advanced sharing. Under advanced sharing, you check the box that says share this folder, and once you're done with that, you can click permissions, and you make sure that you can give full control to anyone. Take apply, take OK, and you equally take apply here and you take OK. So once this is done, you can now take close. The reason why we're doing this is so that we can share files. So this, so any file that let's say we want to transfer to the root CA, we just need to put the file here. Or go to the sub to the root CA there. We can be able to access this folder and everything that's inside from there. So it makes the file transferring process easy like that. So let's go back to our Active Directory domain, to our let's check at the level of our sub CA to see if it has finished with the installation. Okay, the installation here is good, so we can close this here. So once we close this, the next thing is we want to now configure this particular sub CA to be like an intermediate certificate authority. So we'll promote that. You click that notification bell and you actually click the configuration sign that you see there. You get to this page, you take next. When you're here, make sure you check certificate authority, and you also check certificate authority web enrollment. Once you do that, you take next. Once you take next, make sure you leave it of enterprise CA, not standalone. Take next. Once you take next, make sure you click subordinate. We don't want it to be the root, so we take next. Once you do that, you say create new private key. You take next. You can allow the default here. You take next. After taking next here, you can just say dobro. You can allow everything here the way it is. You take next, and here you see this is going to be the request. Here from the sub CA is going to make a request. Save the certificate request file on the target machine. So this is going to be the request that we are going to carry and go to the root CA so that the root CA can validate it. So we are going to now just allow everything the way it is like that. Make sure you mark the path. It's going to be saved in your C drive. So you take next, and after that you just take next, and then you can now take configure like that. And once you take configure, you realize that yes, it has been configured, but it still needs validation. The configuration is not yet complete until you take that request to the root CA, and the root CA confirms it. Once he validates it and creates the sub CA's own certificate, we'll have to bring it back here and make sure we configure this particular sub CA to be the intermediate certificate authority. So I'll just take close here for now, and we'll go to our C drive. Just double click on the folder structure at the bottom here. If we right click, double click on it, I'll go to the C drive here. You see that we should actually have if we go to this PC and double click on C drive, we should see the file that was actually created. So I'll just right click here and I'll copy it. I'll go to desktop, and that folder that we created there, let me just this folder that we created, I'll double click inside there and I'll paste it. Or this is a sub CA file, so I'll paste it here like this, and it should be here like that. So I'll just click on view so that we'll see the extension name, file extension, and hit that there like that. So we have this file here in that particular sub CA folder. So the next thing before we leave this particular server here, we'll leave here to go to the next server. I'm just going to go back to C drive, to this PC. We'll go to C here like this. I'm equally going to make sure that we have we go to inet pub, double click there. This is the default web server part. You go to www.root. Once you're inside here, you can right click here, and now you create a new folder there. That PKI folder that will place on that part. You must make sure that it's in here. So you can just give the name PKI, lowercase letters like this. So once you have it here, we are going to come and place some contents here after we are done from the root certificate authority. So we can allow it here like this. The next thing before we equally move to the root certificate authorities, we'll click on tools and we'll click on internet information services. So once you click on internet information, that's IIS. These are default website here, but we need to make sure that default browsing is enabled. So we'll click here, like for browsing functionalities, we need to make sure that this is enabled. So we're going to click here and we'll go to default directory browsing rather. You can click on directory browsing and make sure that you hit the button that says enable. You want to enable it to be active. So I'll just check here as well on the site. I'll come here. This is the default website that's here for the sub CA. I can double click on directory browsing. I check all of them will be showing enabled. So that's good. And these are the different, this is the PKI file that was just placed in that particular sector there. So we'll minimize this now. We'll go now to our root PKI CA here. So once we are inside our root PKI CA there, what is going to be happening is we are going to now, I'll just click on this folder structure that we have at the bottom here. And once we click there, we want to try to get the request that was downloaded within our sub CA. So to do that, we can always just come here to, you click at the top here where it says quick access, you put //, you put the IP address of the sub CA, that's 172.16.1.10, I'm not mistaken. Hit enter there. So if all goes well, you see the files here. So this is the sub CA file that we created from the sub CA. So we can double click here. We should be able to see that request from there. So we can right click it. Once we right click it, we can just take let me see. I think we need to right click on it to take copy. So I'll just copy it and then we can just paste it. Maybe we'll go to desktop here. And remember, I also created a folder here as well. Enter root files. And then we can paste it here so that it should be on this device. So I'll paste it here. So this is going to be the request that we have here, like this. So we have this request now here. The next thing that we want to do is that we want to now move back to our, certificate authority tab that we have here. In case, let's say you cannot find yours, you can always go to tools and then click on certificate authority is the first at the top there. Certification authorities. So you can click on that. Once you're here now, remember that we've already added our parts there and likes of that. We have not downloaded the certificate yet. It's still there. So we can now come to let's say right click here. Once we right click, we go to all tags. I want to submit request. The request that is from the sub CA. It wants to become the sub. So submit request. It's going to open our folder structure so that we can choose that request file. So once it opens up, we can go to desktop. That's where we placed it. I can go to the root files and then we can select that particular request like this. We can take it. We can now hit open. Once we hit open, we should be able to come to pending request here. When it's all loaded, we should be able to see it here because it's pending. We have uploaded it. So let's just give it some time. Or maybe we can right click and maybe we'll take a refresh so that we can be able to wait and see. Okay, so now this is the pending request here, like this. It's a request from the sub CA. So what's going to happen is you can click here, you can right click, for instance, you go to all tags and then issue. Now this is the root CA now issuing, is making the sub CA now to have the authority so that they can be able to issue certificates on behalf. So take issue. So we expect it to leave from here and go to the issued certificates tab there. So let's just hold on for it to do the checks and then it does the issuing. So it has disappeared from here. If we go to the issue tabs, we are now going to find it here like this. So this is now the validation that we are supposed to carry back and go to the sub CA. So once we have had that, we can now come to this revoke certificate here. we need to publish it. We need to publish it. We need to make sure that the certificate revocation list part, like we need to publish what we have just done here. Like the publishing is necessary so that um, if any certificate has been revoked or has been issued, or let's say it has been revoked, the details are actually going to be compiled, and let's say the sub CA, anyone who wants to access will know that okay, these are the certificates that have been revoked, these are the certificates that have been created, have been, yeah, certificates that have been revoked. So can I click here, we go to all tags, and then you hit publish like this. You create a new CRL. We equally need a CRL file. We hit OK. Once we hit OK, we now hold on. It's going to think OK. That's already giving us that. We take OK, and that's done. So now, after we have done this, we can try to now download our Root CA. So to download the Root Certificate Authority, remember we are at the Root CA here. You can right click. Once you right click on this, what you need to do is you need to come down to properties. Let's just wait for it to open up. Take some time. You click on properties, and then when it opens like this, take view certificate. You see that this is our root certificate authority issued by the root PKI to PKI root CA, like the same person. We go to details, and then when we go to details, we can take copy file. We want to copy this file, I'll take next. We want to take it in the base 64 encoded format for a little bit of encryption. Just hides the details, not to make it in plain text, but it's not really secured like secured, but it encrypts it a little bit. And take next. I'll choose the path. Where do we want to save that root CA certificate? So I'll just maybe go to desktop, and then we'll put inside maybe root files here. I'll double click there, and I'll just take we'll give it a file name. I can just give it like maybe root. Maybe we can give something like root CA, like that. We can just give it a name. It's going to be a .save file. We take OK like that, and hold on. That's it there. We take next, and we take finish. We take was exported successfully. We take OK, and then we'll just take OK here to close it. So Root CA has been downloaded. We can take OK here. The next thing is that we want to actually take the sub CA's validation certificate here. So this is it. We'll just right click here as well, or maybe even double click. Just double click on it. Once you double click, it should open us. It should open us the path that's there, and let's go to it. So once you double click on it, we can come here to details. Once you go to details, we take copy file, and we can take next there. Choose base 64 encoded, and we'll take next. Go to browse. Where do we want to save the file? Then we can come to desktop as well. We are currently, let me go to desktop, go to root files, and then we can save it here. I can just call it sub C, and I'll allow it like that. They'll take OK. So the next thing we'll have to do is just take next. Once you take next, you take finish. So it has been exported successfully. If you come back to general, you will see that it's a Dubro issued to Dubro sub C, issued by PKI Root CA. So the Root CA has been the one that issued the certificate. So just take OK there. The next thing that we need from this Root CA to go to the next part is, remember that we created we published the revocation list. So we'll just go back and take some details from there. We'll go to C, we click on this PC, and also when you click on this PC, you need to go to local disk, double click on it. Once you double click on it, you need to go to Windows. After Windows, you need to go to System 32, and after System 32, you need to go to Set SRV. So first of all, go to System 32. Let's look for System 32 here. So this is System 32 at the bottom here. You double click on it. Then you click on Set SRV here. You double click on it. And then you click on Set Envo here. You double click on it. So once you do that, The next thing that you get is, these are the two you need to get. If we click on view and we click on show extension, show name extensions here, we'll see that we'll see the extension. So we need this .crl and .crt file. So we'll just copy these two files. I'll copy it like this, and I'll take copy. After I take copy, I'm now going to move to our desktop to place it in that root file there. Move to desktop, come to root files, and once you come to root files here, I'll just right click here and I'll paste it here as well. And I'll paste it here as well. So this is the root files, they are there. So these are them currently here. So with all of this being done, then we can say that for now we are done with the root certificate authority. Now we need to move back to the web, to the sub CA here. So once we come to the sub CA, you can see this, the Active Directory Certificate Service on the sub CA is still showing red because it needs some validation here. So first thing that we have to do is we need to come and make sure that the files from the other device, we can be able to access them here. So I'll just click at the top here and I can just put the // I put the IP address now of the root CA, that's 10.10.10.10. Hit enter there, so we can be able to access those files. And here now we can be able to like double click here. These are root files. I can double click in here and I can copy the new content of what we added there. So I can just copy the sub CA, the root CA, this CRL and CRT file. I'll just right click and copy them. So I'll copy and then I'll go to desktop and I'll put them inside the CA file so that I'll have them on this device itself also. So I'll come here and I'll just paste here as well. So I can paste it here like this. So all of them are currently here now. So what I have to do is, the first thing that you have to do now is that you have to first of all install the root CA certificate, this .cell. So you can now double click on root CA.cell, you double click on it. Once you double click on it, it's going to open like this. You take open. Once it opens up, make sure you follow this path. When you bring to this side, make sure you install the root CA first in the system. So it's going to open up for us to install it. Let's just give it some time. So once it's open up, we are going to click here on install certificate. So you click install. Once it comes here like this, you take local machine. You want to install it on this device itself. So you take next. Once you take next like this, you take place all certificates in the following store. You click this one at the bottom, and since this is a root certificate authority, you click browse, and then make sure you click trusted root certification authorities, and then you take OK. So once you do that, this is going to happen, and then you take next, and then you take finish. So that's going to be that, and then here you can take OK because we have already installed that. So that's going to be the installation. We have installed the root CA on this particular device. The next thing that I want to do is to copy these two files, .crl and the .crt file. You copy this. You can, let me click that to remove it. You copy these two, .crt and .crt file. You copy, you take copy, and then we'll go now to this PC. We'll go to this our path here. This PC that says we go to local disk. And when we go to local disk, we go to inet pop. Once we're inside inet pop, we go to www, double click inside there, and we need to place it inside this our PKI folder here. So I'll now right click and then I'll take paste. Those two files have to be here like this. So now once these two files are inside here, the next thing that we have to do is we can now go to our Word. Remember that one file is still left that we have not used yet. The file that's left is, if you go to sub CA files and you double click here, you realize that the file that we have not yet used here is the roots, the sub CA.cell. That's the validation that came from our root certificate authority there. So we need to now go to, you can always come here at the top, you can go to tools and then open certification authority. So I think I've clicked the wrong one. When it comes, I'll cancel it. We need to click certification authority. This is not it. I'll close this. You need to come to tools. You click certification authorities. Once it opens up like this, you now need to come here. As you can see, it's having just a black symbol here. The next thing, when you come here, you need to right click here. Once you right click, We need to go to all tags. We want to bring in the certificate that the valid certificate that was from the Root CA, and we'll now install CA certificate. We go to install CA certificate. Once we come here, you can now go to desktop, and then we'll go to somewhere like maybe sub CA files, and then we, like currently now you can see nothing, but if you click on the drop down arrow here and make sure you choose all files, you should be able to see there. So now this is our subca.save file here. You click this and you take open. So once you take open as such, if you see no error here, everything is good. If you start finding errors here, know you've missed something. Follow the exact steps as we did. So when all of that is set, what you need to do now is to right click here. What you need to do is you right click there and you take start service. If everything goes well, it should turn green. If it does not turn green, that means we actually made an error in the path. So try to follow the steps just the way they are. So this is the phase one. If everything goes well, what we have just done here is we have made the subordinate certificate to be the subordinate. We have just made the root has made the sub to be the sub. So now we can see that everything is valid and it's all green here. So that's good for now. The next thing is, since it's okay, we also need to come here on revoke certificates. There we probably need to click all tabs and publish to create the CRF file, the certificate revocation list file. We need to click that. It's going to reload here, and once it reloads, what we need to do is we need to go and copy the files as well. We'll take OK here as well, and that's going to be. So we need to come now to the file explorer at the bottom here of the screen as well. We need to now go to this PC too. Once we get to this PC, what we need to do is we need to go to local disk, the C part here, and we need to also go to, instead of that, we'll go to like Windows here. While we are inside Windows, we must make sure that we go to System32, that same kind of part also here. We must make sure we go to System32. You double click on System32. Once you double click on System32, you can go to set SRV. If I'm not mistaken. Yeah, this is it here. You can go to set SRV here. You double click on it. Once you double click on set SRV, you can double click on set enroll. And once you double click on set enroll, you see these two files here. The double sub CRN file and the .crc file, not the one that has the plus here. So I'm using control and selecting them. So I'm going to now right click there and I'll take copy. So when I copy them there, we are now going to go to our, I'm just going to come to this our local disk here. You can double click on this PC and go to local disk, and the way you come here, you click on inet hub. We want to put them inside a PKI file as well. So we can go to www root, and we can now also come to the PKI folder here. Once we are here, then we can now right click and we can paste those two from the sub CA here too. So this is sub.crl and then this is sub.crt here as well, like that. So those are some of the key things to note that we have currently just done. And then also now we can download the sub CA's own certificate as well. I can just right click here, right click, and we'll take out, we can go to properties here because we'll need it. I can right click and go to up properties there, and then we can take view certificate. Let's wait for it to load. Please ensure to follow the steps exactly the way they are and what was done before. Make sure you follow that. So this is the sub CA certificate. We are going to go there and then we click on copy. We want to save this particular certificate as well. We take next, we take the 64 encoded, we take next, and I'll choose the part one. I'll just save it inside that desktop folder that we created. I'll just go to desktop again. I'll go to desktop. I'll just go to desktop, and then I'll go to sub CA files, and then I'll just let me see, why are we missing? I'll paste it here. Yes, I'll just paste it here. Okay, it's currently here. Okay, want to save what's there. So instead we're just going to rename it. So I'll rename this to, let's say, sub CA view, like that. Just give it a name like that. I'll take OK. So that's going to be the name of the file, subc files, desktop subc area that. We'll just take next and we'll take finish. So it was exported successfully. We just take finish. So with that being said, we are going to be done with the subca for now. So just take OK here. The next thing that I want to do now is, at this point, our Root Certificate Authority has given permission to our sub-CA to issue our certificates. Now, at the level of our sub-CA here, we are going to try to also see that we can place a request to our sub-CA here so that they can validate maybe our local website that we have here, so that when a user PC opens it, it's going to see that website as secure. So, to do that, if there are various methods by which you can do that, let's get into our web server. We can make a request for our website through different methods. So let's just log in and then we'll see how that can be done. So here we'll just log in our web server here as the normal user. I'll put test 1, 2, 3, hit enter there. So while we are in here, okay, our IIS that we're downloading here is done. I'll take close. And I'm just going to open this tool here that says the IIS, this Internet Information Service Manager. So we'll open it. So once we open it now, it opens as such. So once it opens, we can hit the drop down arrow here and we can see these details. First of all, before we do anything, I would like us to double click here. When we come here, we'll go to directory browsing, you double click on it, and then make sure you enable here so that directory browsing is enabled there like that. So here as well, if you come here on this side, see the drop down arrow. These are default site here. These are default site. Let me just double click on directory browsing. Let's make sure that it's also enabled. Yes, it's enabled. So now, if you double click, let's say on where it says web, you double click on it, and if you double click on, let's say, server certificate, let's say this our server here needs to request that, okay, he wants his website that he has locally to be, let's say, flagged as a valid website. You can click on certificates here. Once you click on certificates here, there are various ways you can create that certificate request. You can create a request by this side, by the right side of the screen that says create certificate request, or complete certificate request after, let's say, the sub-CA has validated. That is going to work as well. You can equally create a domain certificate request. That's equally good because it's going to just generate the request instantly and then bring the certificate to you straight away here. But the problem in all of this is that we are not going to have the subject alternative name, and even though your certificate can be valid, but once the subject alternative name is not there, most of our modern browsers now will keep rejecting it. So there's an alternative method that we are going to use to be able to create a certificate request that has the ability for us to put the subject alternative name. So let's say, for instance, the subject alternative name I'm talking about is, let's say, if you go to Google, let's say google.com, for instance here. Once you click on the browser and you click on this lock icon here, let's say click on this lock icon, it shows this connection is secured. That's good. You click on certificate here. You see, if I go to the details of the certificate, you can see that maybe this is the Root CA, the person who issued it, and then this one is meant to be like a sub CA, and then this is the name of the site. So if you go down to more details down there, if you go to certificate subject alternative name, there's nothing below here on the field value. When I click on certificate subject alternative name, you see that these are the various other methods by which people can use to go to, like, the Google website. So with the certificates that we're going to be creating, we need to create the certificates in such a way that they also have like a subject alternative name attached. If not, you have a problem. So that's why we're going to use the next method. So to make all of that to happen, to create the request with the method that we are going to include the sign involved, we need to go to the sub-C and then we'll create a template. So we need to come to the sub-CA. When we come to the sub-CA here, you can see that Here we have, if you click certificate templates here, you realize that we have various templates that are going to display here. So whenever you request for a certificate, the sub CA just always going to use a pre-made template here. It's going to always use this web server template, and this web server template does not have like the abilities to include the SAN um, involved. Like it's not going to have the ability to include the subject alternative name. So to do that, we are going to first of all right click here, and then once we right click, we are going to go to manage. Then we want to create a template, another template from the root CA that from the sub CA that the sub CA can be using to issue certificates for websites in this case. So once we are here, we can scroll down and you click on web server. Once you click on web server, you now click, you right click and then click duplicate template. Once you click on duplicate template, this particular tab is going to open here. So we'll have some few changes that we're going to do here. So we can see certification authority server, maybe it can be greater than 2008, the PC that is a certificate authority, and then we can say that maybe it can be the recipient, the PC that gave the request, maybe it should be greater than 28 2012 or Windows Server 2012 as well, like that. And then we can now go to the general tab. We can just give it a name like say web, maybe say this is a web, let's say web SAN. Let's say web SAN, let me put the space. Let's say web SAN template. Web SAN template like this. So I have a web SAN template. You can just give it a name like this. Or let's say we'll give web SAN server. I'll just say server like this. And then we can allow the details, the defaults that we have here. We can now go to handling requests. Make sure under handling requests, make sure you check allow private key to be exported. Make sure that is checked. And then after that, we can now move to our security tab, where we now say, okay, for authenticated users, just for the purpose of this lab, maybe we can give full control. But for authenticated users, maybe you just want to give them the ability to enroll websites or stuff like that. Let's just give full access here. For administrators, we can give them equally full control as well. For domain admins, let's give them full control. And then for enterprise admins, we equally give them full control like that. The next step that we're going to be looking at, look at servers here. Let's see, look at general is there, subject name, everything is okay. Allow me to show that supply in the request is okay, no changes done here. If we go to what other tab again, I think those are the major tabs that the key tabs where you have to make some changes here is compatibility. After compatibility, general, change the name of how the template look like. Request handling, make sure you check allow private key to be exported. And after that, you can now go to security here, and under security, you need to make sure that there's some control given to the different users there. So that's what's going to be happening. So when we are currently done with that, the next thing that we have to do now is you can now take apply, and then now you take OK like this. So when you take OK now, this is our web SAN server that's going to be here. Once that's done, you can now go back to, you can now minimize this page. That's a template that's done. When you come back here, you can now right click, and then you can now take new, then take new template to issue. Then we're going to select that our new template that we just created. So you can scroll down. These are web SAN server template here. So take OK. So once you take OK, it's now going to be among this is here, the web SAN server template. So now the certificate, the sub certificate authority has this template, this web SAN server template. So we're going to now move to our web server here. So we're going to make a request, but not using this platform. We're going to use MMC. So just hit the search bar on your screen and type MMC. Yeah. Once you type MMC, the next thing you want to do is you want to like right click on this and then open in file location. You click on open in file location, and then this page is going to open up as such. Once it opens up, you can now double click on MMC. So once you double click on MMC, you realize that this portal is going to open like this. If we are here now, what we need to do is we need to be able to come to File, and then we'll go to Add/remove snap in, and then this page will load up. We'll click Certificate, then we'll take Add. Once you take Add as sort, we take computer account, we take Next. Once we take Next, we allow this one local computer, we take Finish, and we'll take here OK. Once we do that, we now move to certificates. Here, hit the drop down arrow. You can now come to personal. Normally, we are going to create the web server certificate. Remember, on the web server, we'll create a request for the certificate from here. So if you double click here, you realize that personal has no files here. But the thing is, before we even go to make the request, because we can create the request by right clicking here, and we'll go to all tabs, and we're going to say request new certificate. But before coming there, we need to make sure that the root certificate, or the root certification authority, that's our Root CA certificate, is actually within this folder here. So if you look, these are various certificate authorities that we have here. We have the AAA, we have all these different certificate authorities, but our own, that's the PKI Root Certificate Authority, is not here. So, and all these devices that have joined the domain, like currently we don't have it here. Currently we have it here because we installed it. Currently we don't have it here. And to make it to appear on all these devices at the same time, rather than importing it one by one, we can go to our domain controller here. Once we get to our domain controller, there's something we want to do. We want to make sure that all devices within the domain automatically receive the root CA certificate in their system. So we'll just log in there, and then we'll create a GPO, that's a group policy object, and make sure that all devices have that. So I'll just enter test 1, 2, 3, we'll log in here, we'll log in there, and once we are inside here, the next thing that we'll have to do is we need to now go to Tools. When we come to Tools, make sure we go to Group Policy Manager here. Once you come to Group Policy Manager, we'll now come here under where it says Forex, you hit the drop down arrow, and then hit your domain that you have, and then now you can hit the dobre.com domain there. I'll increase this a bit for us to see here. So you come here where it says Group Policy Object. You can, if you hit the drop down arrow, you see this Group Policy Object. I can just right click here, right click, and I'll say new. It's a new policy object, GPO that I want to create. So can you say root, let me see CA, let me say I use certificate installation. I'll just give it a name like that, and I'll take OK. So once I do that, you can see that this is the certificate installation group policy object that we have created. I'll right click. You can see currently it's enabled, but we want to edit it. So once we come here to edit, I'll come here. You can come here to, first of all, you can double click on policies. Where you go to policies, under computers configuration, there you can click Windows settings. After Windows settings, you need to make sure that you go to security settings. After security settings, you need to make sure that you double click on, you can double click from this side as well. You double click on public key policies. After public key policies, you can first of all come among these three here. You right click on the first one here, you click properties. Once you click properties, you can now hit the enable button here, and then you just take apply, and then you take OK. Next one, you click certificate path valid, validation settings. You click properties. After properties, you click define this policy settings. When you click on that, allow the default here. You take apply, and you equally take OK. And same thing for this at the bottom here. You right click, you take policies, and then you take not configured, you take enable. So after taking enable, you can check this box here. It says certificates can be renew expired certificates and stuff like that. So you take apply, and you take OK. Then after taking that, what the next thing that you have to do is you need to now come to this part here where it says trusted root certification authorities here. So if you double click on trusted root certification authorities here, you have to right click and then import. So if I click import, for instance here, we need to import our root certificate authority. So once import it from this local machine, it's going to be stored in this part here. So take next. I'll browse our folder structure. It's going to open. I can just hit this document tab and then I hit the backslash. I can put the IP address of the sub CA 172.16.1.10, for instance. We hit enter there. So it should open us this folder structure. Double click sub CA files, and then here I know that this is our sub C. This is our root CA here. This one here. So I can just click on this and then I take open. I want to import this our sub CA. This is our root CA.ca there. So I'll just take next and we'll take next again and we'll take finish. So it's going to give you some time. It's going to import it here. And the reason why I'm doing this is because all the computers that have joined the domain, we want them to actually just receive this root CA certificate within their system all at once. We don't want to be going from one PC and uploading it manually. It will take us some time. So we'll give some time here. It's going to upload it. Let me shift this here. Yeah, so now it has given us the import was successful. So we'll take OK. Now we are also going to let me expand this. We need to go to the intermediate certificate authority certificate. So this, double click here, intermediate certification authorities, you double click. Once you double click, you now right click also here and you take import. We want the intermediate CA to also be available on all computers. So we take next and then we'll come here to browse. Once we come to browse, we can now take our sub CA. This sub CA view is in the part that's there. We take open and I will take next and I will take intermediate certificate authorities, yes, and I will take next and I will take finish. So equally give you some time and then it's equally going to import it here and then we are going to be good to go like that. So let's just give you some time to load. So it has finished with the importation. So we'll take OK. So once that is that, we can see that this is a sub C that has appeared here and we are good. We can now minimize this here. So once we minimize, we come back to this our group policy management here. So right here we can see that this is the object that has just been created. We need to just come to our domain controller here. We need to right click and we need to say link an existing group policy object. So click link and they will choose the certificate installation object that we created. We want to just attach it to the domain, so it's just going to go to all pieces, but in maybe a production environment, maybe you want it to go to some particular departments and such, so you will not just put it on the domain. But for now, we'll just attach it to the domain. All devices connected to the domain will have it. So we'll take OK, and then once we take OK there, you can see certificate installation has appeared at the top here now. We can double click on it. Just take OK here. You can see here that the link is enabled, but enforce is showing no. So you can either right click here and then take enforce. So when I take enforce like this, all devices now will be able to get it now. So with that being said, if we come back here to our web server here, if you try to do a refresh here, for instance, we might not even see the root CA here. The root certificate authority is supposed to appear. So for us to make it to appear here, we need to now make this particular device to receive updates that have been made from the Active Directory domain controller. So if we type here, let's say CMD, that's a command prompt. We're going to right click and try to open it as the administrator there. Once open as the administrator here, we can now type GP update. We want to receive updates from the domain controller. / like that, we type force. So we are going to wait for it to do the updates from there, and then once the update is done, hopefully we should be able to see the root CA that's already available here before we make the request. If we make the web server's request, to the sub CA before doing this, we'll have errors. So after doing that, it's not still available here. Hopefully, if we do a refresh, it should appear here now. So here, this is it now. This is it here. It shows PKI Root CA that just updated now. So with that being said, we can go ahead now to create our request from this side. So our web server request, we can come here and say, if I click there, you go to all tabs and you take request new certificate. When you hit request new certificate, this tab is going to open like this. You go to next. Once you go to next, Active Directory and enrollment policy, make sure that is checked. You go to next. We give you some time to load. We should be able to see the template that we created from the sub CA that's available here. So let's just hold on and wait for it to load for us. So this is it. This is the template we created, web stand server. So all we need to do is you hit the drop down arrow here. Once you hit the drop down arrow, you go to properties. Once you hit properties, the next thing you have to do is this, where now we are going to be creating the details of our web server. So our web server is going to normally have a common name as web. Remember that this web is the name of the device itself, web.dubro.local, like this. Then you take app. That's the name of the PC. That's the name of the device attached to the name of the domain name. So hit that. Now the country that maybe we're creating this web server certificate from, let's say just a CM, short form for Cameroon. You can hit enter like that. The next one we can want to put is let's say the organization. Organization, we can just maybe put something like Dobro. Let's say Dobro, lowercase, Dobro.local, like that. We can hit next from there. And the next one that we can hit is, let's say, the organizational unit. So the organizational unit, we can put there, we can just say IT, like that, hit add. And the next thing we can put there is the state. We can put the state there as, let's say, since we are currently here, we can put Boya, like that. Boya, like that. And then the next one that we can add there about the details, you can add other details you want from here. It's fine. Let me say locality or something like that. Now just put something here like south west. Instead southwest or something like that. So click add something. So this is going to be some of the details our website is going to have, and this is going to be the domain name for our website here. So make sure that if you come here on local servers, you realize that the name of the PC is web, and I'm adding the domain name to it, dobre.local. So now the next one need to come is this is the most important part here that we're going to be adding, the alternative name. So you click the drop down arrow and you click DNS. Once you click DNS, you need to make sure that you add the name of your website, web.dobro.local, like this, and then you hit add. The next thing you want to also do is you need to add, let's say, another alternative name. Like you can add like dobro.local. You can add these two there and you take add for now. So when that is done, you can just go now to the general tab, and then you can add a friendly name. You can just say web server certificate, like that. You can leave that as such. You go to extensions, not really much to do here. You keep the default as they are. Equally, you keep the default certificate authority. You can see that the sub CA that is going to be issuing this, and then we are sending it to the sub CA. So you can leave the defaults like that, and when you're done with that, you can take apply and you can take OK, like that. So once you do that, the next thing that you want to do is you want to now check this box here and then take enroll. So hit enroll. So it's going to send a request to the sub CA, and the sub CA now, if everything is in accord, is going to validate the web server's web request, and then see everything shows that the status is succeeded. So take finish. So once we take finish, you double click on certificates here. Hopefully, if you see this is the web.dobro.local, the certificate that has been issued. And if you double click on it, you will see that it's actually the dobro.subca is the person who issued this particular certificate there. So if you go to certificate part, you can see the chain. You can see that it's the PKI Root CA that actually created the Durable Sub C, and it's Durable Sub C that has actually created the web server certificate there. So we can take OK. The next thing is now for us to attach to edit our website, to make the bindings available so that our website can be functional via HTTPS, via the secure web. So what you need to do is you need to hit the drop down arrow there. You come to site, hit the drop down arrow, double click on this. This is our default website, the default Windows website here. So when you're here now, you can now come to where it says bindings. Once you come to bindings, you can click on add at the top here. You can see the website is currently bound to like HTTP there. That's port 80. Hit the drop down arrow, you take HTTPS, works on port 443 now. You put the host name, you can just put web.dubrew.local like that. After doing that, the next thing we want to do is you can now choose the certificate that you want, hit the drop down arrow or click the certificate that the sub CA has signed so that our website can now be flagged as secure when anyone tries to access it. We now take OK like that. So once that is done, we can now take close like this. And once that is done, hopefully if everything is good, then now we can go to our user PC and try to test and confirm to see if like what we have done so far, it works. So go to Control-Alt-Del there. So we'll try to log in, and hopefully since we push the root certificate, the root CA certificate to all devices, we should make sure that the root CA certificate is actually already available on this device. So I'll click on other user. We don't want to log in as a double-tech user. It's not part of the domain. We want to log in as a device that's part of the domain. So hit done, our test user. I'll put our password test123, and then we'll log in. So let's wait for Dan to log in like this here. Let's just hold on. At least while it's booting like this, even though it says it might take several minutes, it's actually going to be getting updates by default already from the Active Directory domain controller. So all the changes we made from the Active Directory controller, by now it should actually reflect on this device. So we just expect to hit our browser and actually type in our website domain name, and then we should be able to see that it shows us that we can access that particular website securely. So if that happens, then it shows that we have implemented the lab successfully. Such. So let's just hold on. Hopefully it does not take a lot of time. Let's just hold on for that to happen, and yeah. So while it's still loading here, we can even start making some checks at the level of the at the level of the web server itself. We can open a browser. Let's see, we can try to open something like Firefox. We can open Firefox browser, and let's wait for it to open. When Firefox opens, then we'll check and see some few things there. Hopefully, if all is okay, I'll just try to restart IIS also here. Make sure you try to also restart IIS in case maybe after the changes that we have just made, it's good to restart so that the new things actually take effect. So I'll just hold on here. Let's wait for our user PC. It's still coming up. Okay. Our user PC seems to be up now. So I'll just open any browser here. Let's say Chrome. I'll double click into Chrome. On our web server here, I've clicked on Firefox. Hopefully it's still booting. Let's wait for it to boot. I'll restart this again one more time. I'll just refresh that. So I'll come here, I'll just say don't sign in and we take skip. Yeah. So once it's open up, I can just let me expand the screen. So we can just type our website https put forward slash web dot google dot local. So hopefully if all goes well, it should flag it as successful and it should be secure. Oh, so we see it shows here that our website is not secure. So now let's check first of all if on this particular device we have, let me check on the PKI on the web browser here. Let me open Firefox and I'm going to do the same thing. I'll just type here as well. I'll just type here as well https colon backslash web dot google dot local. So we'll just check that from here as well, and then we see as well. So here it shows us that it's actually secured. So it shows us that what we did actually worked. So I'll go back to the user PC and then we're going to try to verify why it actually failed at the level of the user PC there. So here we can see that if you go to more information, you can see that it shows that the website is secured. You can view the certificate and you can see the chain of devices, the chain that the certifications actually do have. And let me see, I'll come up here. Let's go to the user PC here. Now we are seeing is your connection is not private. So it shows us as this. The first thing that we want to check is the Root CA already installed on this particular device? I will come to settings here, and while I come to settings here, I'll take I'll just type for certifications, and when I type certifications there, we can now go to something like the settings at the bottom. Yeah, no, let me just enter this again. I'll go back one more time. I'll click on security. Once you go to security, I'll scroll down where it says manage certificate. I'll click on manage certificate and then we'll go to view imported certificates for Windows. Then, so you can see here that our root certificate, that PKI root CA, is not yet here. The PKI root CA is not yet here. So that's why it's always going to flag that this website is not secure. So the way we can do it, normally at the level of the domain controller, we pushed it so that all devices within the domain should have it. So what we are going to do here is we are going to now make this computer to receive updates from the domain controller. So I'll open CMD and then we'll just open the command prompt. I'll try to right click and open it as an administrator. So when it opens up here, then I'll try to use the GP update /force command. Let's hold on for it to open. So it wants me to log in as part of the domain. I'll just hit I'll just enter as administrator. Yes, and then put in the password test123. So take yes. So hopefully it opens the terminal. We'll now type in here GP update. We type GP update /force so that I can get the updates from the Active Directory domain controller, since we actually pushed from the domain controller that the root CA certificate should go to all the devices that are in the domain, and this particular computer is also in the domain, so we should expect to have the root CA there. So since it was not there, we came to do the GP update so we can have it. So it has done the update successfully. So let's come back here and then I'll try to do, let's say, a refresh of this particular page and come back here. Let's check again and see, or I'll close the browser and put it back up. I'll go back. Let me close the browser and then will push it back up again. Let me try with Edge, and I'll also try with Chrome as well. So let's test to see if we can access it successfully. So I'll first of all come here, and while I'm inside, let me go back to Chrome. Or let's say let me start without my data. This is Edge. I'll just continue, and then I'll take confirm and start browsing. So I'll just come here to this drop down arrow. This is the Edge browser. We'll go to settings, and then while we hit settings, I'll just type here certificate like this. We hit enter. We'll go to manage certificates, and then when we're here like this, we go trusted certificates there. We expect to see, let's say, our Root CA here. This is it now. You can see the PKI Root CA is now available here. Like this is good. And intermediate certificate authority, we see that our Double sub CA. Yes, this is equally good because our browser now knows our Root CA. So let's try again one more time to, like, let's say reach our website, https //web.double.local, like that. So hopefully good. So now we don't get the error again. It shows us that our website that we are trying to access is secured. And maybe if we try to view the certificate that it has there, you can see that this is what it created: web.double.local, and IT. If we check the details, and we see that this is the chain, the root PKI, that's the root certificate authority, and then this is the intermediate certificate authority, and then this is the certificate of our website here. And then if you go to scroll down at the bottom where it says subject alternative name, you click on it, you see these are the two names that we added there, like that. So just for some clarifications again, we can check, maybe we check our Chrome browser or something. I'll just double click on it again, and then we check on it. So I'll first of all check if the certificates are now available on this particular device. So go to, I'll just type certificate here, and then we'll hit security, and then we'll scroll down to where it says manage certificates. So here now, we're now going to click on view imported certificates from Windows, and if you scroll down, you can see it right there, PKI Root CA now is now available. So I believe that on this web server that rejected us before, we take https://web.double.local, then we should be able to now see that it's secure, and that's it there. So if you click on this, and you see the connection is secured, and you can now see that everything is okay. So you can view the certificate, that certificate there, and these are the details of the certificate that we created. So with that being said, this is how you can be able to make this lab workable, and everything seems to be good and fine. So thank you for actually trying to follow it, and follow this particular video to make sure that yours works as well. Thank you.